In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the rear wheel hub and bearing assembly on this Dodge Grand Caravan. Let's get started. With a 19mm socket, remove all 5 of your lug nuts and then remove the wheel. Remove the wheel. Now take these 2 18mm bolts out so we can take the entire caliper and bracket assembly off into the side. There's one. This one also has a bracket on it. Take that off. Now take the top one off. Set the caliper over here. I'm going to use a bungee cord to tie it to the spring just so it doesn't pull on the brake hose and doesn't put any pressure on anything else. Take your rotor off. If you look underneath the vehicle now, follow the ABS wire from the wheel bearing all the way to where it ends. You'll see right near the tailpipe here, there is a connector with a red locking tab on it, just a 2-wire connector. That is for your ABS wire. I'm going to use a little pocket screwdriver and pry this locking tab out. Sometimes they're a little stuck. You might have to pry them from the inside part here. Just push it straight out. Without doing this, you cannot press on the tab to unlock the connector. Now, with the red locking tab removed, you can remove this. Let's unclip it off the brake line here. There we go. Pull it down. My shield is broken here. Typically, you would have to pull it through. I can just pull it out this way. Continue removing the ABS wire from all of its retaining points. Need a trim tool for that one. There we go. Over here. Continue removing it. On the back side, use a trim tool and pop it out of the axle beam right here. Now let's remove the 4 16mm bolts that hold the wheel bearing onto the axle tube here. You can get to them from the back side. There are 4 holes cut out so that you can actually reach them. There's one. Okay, that's all 4. Now, use your large hammer, tap this wheel bearing till it comes out. It broke free, so let's hammer the other way. There it is. Take the backing plate or backing shield off. Save this. There's your wheel bearing. I'm going to take all this rust off here so that it can be a nice clean flat mounting surface. It's very important for the new wheel bearing. I'm going to use a hammer and a chisel if I need it. Clean inside here where the wheel bearing sits. I'm actually going to use a wire wheel on a drill for that. Now I'm going to rinse this all off with brake parts cleaner. Dry it off. I'm going to coat this whole surface with some anti-seize so that it doesn't rust in the future. I know it still looks like it's rusty, but the metal's just discolored. If you don't have anti-seize, you can also use grease for this. Put your ABS wire through the backing shield. Line this up and reinstall it. Stick one of the bolts through just to start it so it can hold this wheel bearing in. Move it around to line it up with the threads. There we go. That's started. I'm going to try and line up this top one now. As soon as you get 2 started, things should line up a whole lot easier. There we go. .41 foot-pounds is the torque for all 4 of these. I'm going to torque them in a cross pattern so that I ensure the bearing is seated and pressed up against the axle beam properly and evenly. Just going to double check them all. All right, these are all torqued. Resecure the ABS wire onto the axle beam where the wheel bearing sits. When you run the ABS wire, make sure you loop it underneath the parking brake cable on the caliper, and then just follow all these grommets along. This one doesn't reach yet just because the brake hose is all the way over there, so I'm going to skip that one and I'll come back to it at the end. I'm going to secure it over here and then over here. And then it runs back down, gets secured right on this retainer for the brake line, and then up and into the connector area. Back underneath, run the ABS wire where it belongs, over this shield. Plug it in, make sure the connector clicks. There we go, I heard it. It was a very quiet click. Lock it down, and use this to clip it back onto the brake line. Now let's coat the hub and indices so we can prevent rust from building up in the future. If you are reusing your old rotor, make sure you clean in here where it mounts onto the hub so that it can sit flat. If it has rust buildup here, well, it's not going to sit flat and you're going to have weird braking issues. Also, I'm going to clean this off once it's mounted, but definitely clean off any greasy handprints. I'm using a new rotor, so I don't have to worry about rust buildup. Set the rotor on the hub. I'm going to use a lug nut to hold it on temporarily, just so that it doesn't move around. Now I'm going to use brake parts cleaner and a clean rag and remove all the greasy fingerprints I put on this. You don't want any oils or grease getting onto your brakes and the backside. Okay, now grab your caliper, slide it over the rotor, and once it lines up, you're going to want to start in these bolts. Start in the bolt by hand so that it threads on smoothly. And this lower one had the bracket that went underneath it. There we go. Let's snug them both up, and the torque for both of these is 74 foot-pounds. Once again, 74 foot-pounds. That's one. And the second one. Let's get the wheel back on. Put on all 5 of your lug nuts, bottom them out, and then we're going to torque them in a cross pattern to 100 foot-pounds. Once again, 100 foot-pounds in a cross pattern. Double check them if you want. Pump up your brakes and take it for a road test.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.